In Armenia this Thursday, fresh protests against the government's decision to give back abandoned villages to Azerbaijan. This as the two sides work on a peace deal. This after Baku last September overran Nagorno-Karabakh. The protests taking place in the capital Yerevan once again, but also blocking the main highway that leads to Georgia. Well, for more, we can cross to Dubai. David Vardanyan is the son of Nagorno-Karabakh's former leader. He was arrested when Nagorno-Karabakh fell to Azerbaijan back in September. Ruben Vardanian, who has been on hunger strike since April the 5th. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you so much for having me, François. It's really an honor to be here, and I want to say thank you to you and all the French people for their support to the Armenian prisoners and Armenia in general at such a difficult time for the country and for the nation.
Now, your father had scheduled to be tried in January. It had been postponed to May. Tell us about this hunger strike.
Yeah, unfortunately, Francois, this has been a catastrophically intransparent process that has happened. So my father, Ruben Vardanian, has been detained for over 200 days. He was the first of the Armenian Nagorno-Karabakh leaders to be arrested, but there are 7 others. And since his arrest, we have had very little information about his condition, about the process itself, which was, as you said, the trial was supposed to happen in January, which was arbitrarily postponed until May now. And we're very worried that this prolongation of his arbitrary arrest will just continue without any evidence. And to make matters worse, we had only learned last week that my father, who hadn't been able to call the family for over 2 weeks back then, had been on a hunger strike since April 5th and was purposefully denied access to his family for over 2 weeks with deteriorating health conditions. After international pressure grew in countries such as France, he was granted a phone call on Saturday to his sister, where he told about his condition, that he has been moved to a solitary cell and has been deprived of even the little things that he had, such as books and reading materials, but that he was staying strong for all of us. And then actually, after even more international pressure, not only from the media, but from various international governments, he actually called my mother this morning. Finally, she was able to speak with him. And she told him about the international pressure that, people like the Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, had announced yesterday the commemoration of the genocide in Paris, and told him that everyone is extremely worried for his health and pleaded with him to stop. After very, very long kind of a discussion, he reluctantly agreed to pause his hunger strike. And we actually issued a statement just recently, maybe an hour ago. And I wanted to speak with you. You were the first ones to hear about it.
So he has lifted his hunger strike?
Yes, temporarily, as we know. But again, we're very worried about his health condition because he has not received any medical care, and he is still being in solitary confinement, as we understand, without any proper medical observations. So our worry for his health continues, but we hope that he will stop the hunger strike. As a family, that's the most important thing for us. It's his health and the fact that he will be safe.
So just to be clear for our viewers here, while this has been going on, in the meantime, Armenia's government has kept up the negotiations with Azerbaijan's government.
Yes, that's what we understand as well. I am not privy to the information or the discussions between the government of Armenia and the government of Azerbaijan. I certainly hope, and recent protests in New York, Paris, Yerevan yesterday have shown that the issue of the prisoners is a key topic for the whole Armenian world, not just in Armenia, but across across every country for 10 million people. The issue of the prisoners is a key topic, and I hope it is being discussed as part of the peace process, because I believe that no unjust peace can prevail and especially if you have citizens of a country unjustly, in prison for such a long time, how can we have a long-lasting peace between two countries?
Why did Ruben Vardanian do it? Why did he go into politics and decide to go to Nagorno-Karabakh?
That's a great question, Francois. And honestly, it was a very difficult decision. Last time I spoke with him in person was in August 2022, when he announced his decision to leave for Nagorno-Karabakh. And actually, this was the last time I saw him in person. And he knew all the risks that it entailed, not just for him, but for the family. But he told me that, at a certain point, there comes a time where there are things that are more important than even your own life, and you have to act according to your principles and values. And he believed that 120,000 people could not just simply be forgotten and abandoned. So he risked it all to live with them, to try to save them, to raise awareness for their dire situation. And even in prison now, he's fighting for them so that they're not forgotten.
Now, he's a man who his fate has been, over the years, tied to that of Russia. He made his fortune in the early 90s. He was a banker. On Monday, we saw images of a convoy of Russian peacekeeping forces seen withdrawing from Nagorno-Karabakh, where they'd been stationed as peacekeepers since the end of the war in 2020. While on the same day, the Azerbaijan president, Ilham Aliyev, was meeting with Vladimir Putin in Moscow. What's been the role of Russia in all of this? Has there been a role of Russia since the fall of Nagorno-Karabakh and in the fate of political leaders like your father?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid question, and I'm sure there are more experienced or more knowledgeable people on this matter. For me, I know that historically, of course, this region has been part of the Soviet Union before, and Russia has always played a peacekeeping role. But I certainly see that this is not a political issue or a bilateral issue for just Russia, Azerbaijan, or Armenia. This is actually a global humanitarian issue that kind of goes beyond the historical background. It's more of a human rights issue that I think should be addressed by all. And I actually want to thank again the French government in particular for stepping up and speaking about the issue of the prisoners, like the Prime Minister Gabriel Attal did, and the Mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, who announced that unless the prisoners are not released, she will not attend COP29, which is a huge statement. And I really hope that more and more influential politicians and thought leaders join this as well.
Has your family appealed to Russia to help pressure to have for his release?
I cannot comment on on the legal matter of things. We have applied to all the global instances, like we applied to the Red Cross, we applied to the Armenian government has applied to the European Court of Human Rights, and we of course have a lot of contacts around the world that have actually said that how can we help your father, because Ruben has had a global impact around the world, whether that be in the US, France, UK, Russia, Armenia, that is not really a political matter. Again, it's more, he's always been a philanthropist at first, that was forced to go into politics to defend the rights of 120,000 people. So we've appealed to everyone, but actually we haven't had to appeal so much. People are volunteering to help.
France, home to a large Armenian community, has been front and center, as you say. There was a recall of ambassadors last week. Relations with Baku have been testy. It's not always been the case inside of the European Union. There was much criticism of the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen when she traveled to Azerbaijan with an eye to oil and gas contracts. At this point in time, what can Europe do? What is Europe doing in your view?
Well, Francois, a lot has already been done, although it's not enough. I feel like the sentiment is changing, beyond the realpolitik that is going on, which is, I understand, inevitable. But I feel like the European community, with leaders such as François Bellamy in the European Parliament, are really turning the tide and showing that, beyond the pragmatic realities, there's also an issue of human rights that cannot be ignored. And the Armenian prisoners are becoming the central question in this discussion. This topic will always be raised on the agenda from this day on, I'm sure, and has been. However, the actions such as what was done in the European Parliament yesterday about political prisoners who are not even Armenian raises questions about the validity of, can Azerbaijan be a valid partner if they continue violating human rights? And the European voice is very important. As you say, France is key, but it cannot be alone. It has to be joined by others. And I hope that, our values prevail here and that these Armenian prisoners are released in the nearest future.
David Vardanian, so many thanks for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you for this opportunity, François. Thank you so much.
Stay with us. There's much more to come. More news, plus the day's business and sports.